Don't panic, but resistance is useless. Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about the BBC miniseries for The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The reason I wanted to watch this is, and I know I'd seen it a long time ago, and I didn't really remember everything about it, but the reason I wanted to watch it again is, A, I wanted to watch the movie that came out in the early 2000s and that I never just got a chance to watch, and I kind of wanted to not go into it flying too blind. But also, I was thinking about a game that me and a buddy of mine used to play the other day where it was all text-based, and it was for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I remember just bits and pieces of it. We only got as far, I believe, as the Vogon ship and got the Babel fish. But you had to do everything where you lie in front of the bulldozer. You go with Ford to the pub, and you have to drink so much that it'll help you survive the trip and everything. So, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, and I will warn you, there'll probably be some spoilers in this review. You can watch this on Amazon Prime right now, and I'm not gonna pretend like I am like this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy historian, and I know and understand every single little thing that the show is trying to do. But I will tell you this, that even the absurd stuff that I didn't totally understand, I did enjoy. It's kind of a fun watch. It's a silly watch. In some ways, it feels like an incomplete watch. But I've never read the book, so I don't know how different this is from the books. But the basic setup for this is you have a character named Arthur Dent who wakes up and he sees a bulldozer coming towards his house, and he decides he's going to lay in front of it so they can't bulldoze his house. His friend named Ford Prefect, who is really from outer space, convinces the people trying to bulldoze the house to lay in front of the bulldozer so he can go and take Arthur for a drink, because he tells Arthur that the Earth's going to be destroyed like really soon. And it's funny the parallel that makes, because the reason they're wanting to destroy Arthur's house was to build like a highway, and so they said, well, you should have known about it. And he's like, well, I just found out about this. And they're like, well, it's been announced for so long. And it's like, well, it was buried like deep down in the records and all this. Basically, there's no way he could have known, even though they had made the decisions. But of course, we find out that the reason that the Earth is being destroyed is pretty much for the same reason. It's that it's in the way. But we find out later that the Earth is much more important to the galaxy than than we know right now. They do manage to get off the planet, and they get a ride on an alien spaceship, but they are caught as stowaways and forced to listen to really bad poetry. And what's funny about this series is it will go to the Hitchhiker's Guide, and it will show you entries within it. The characters have one. Ford talks about how he's trying to update it, and then plus the narrator will tell us these stories about things that are going on. At first, there's times it's telling stories and you don't think it's going anywhere, but then it does eventually get to the point of what it's trying to add to the story. But it talks about how the Vogon poetry is the third worst poetry in the universe, and then there was another one, and it says the worst poet in the universe is now gone because they were on Earth, so it doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, they are forced to listen to the poetry, but then they are tossed out into space because they're sucking up to the Vogon spaceship captain did not work. But they are luckily rescued by a two-headed man named Zaphod Beeblebrox and his assistant, girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, Trillian. And it's weird because Ford knows them, but so does Arthur. And it turns out that back on Earth, again, the Hitchhiker's Guide tells us the story about how Arthur was at a party. He tried to hit on Trillian, and then, a one-headed Zaphod Beeblebrox basically, swept her off her feet and away from Arthur. So he kind of doesn't like him anyway. But they go on an adventure in a stolen ship that can do some amazing and weird things. Weird things especially to a whale and some flowers, I believe it is. But they find out that Zaphod's looking for this planet that was run by all the rich people in the galaxy, and they make custom planets. But this planet's supposed to be deserted or dead, but it fires, some defense systems fire missiles at them. But they do find out that, no, not everyone's dead on this planet. They find out that they've been asleep for a very, very long time. This is also where we learn about the universe's... we eventually learn about the universe's second greatest computer that is supposed to tell us the meaning of life. And it takes forever, and I mean really forever. And then when it finally gives the answer is not very satisfactory because it doesn't really match what the question is. It's like, well, it's going to take even longer to figure out the question. We also find out that that people on Earth weren't the smartest creatures on Earth during their adventure. We find out that, and no, it's not dolphins. They're like the second smartest. We find out it's mice, which Trillian actually had some. And it turns out that they are, they wanted the Earth made. And the Earth is this massive supercomputer, and it's supposed to come up with the question in which the answer is 42. And there's a math joke in there, which actually comes into play later. Our group also travels to the end of time, to a restaurant to see the end of the universe. And they end up stealing a ship that was created to crash into the sun. But then we also... they get off of that ship, and they end up on a planet, or end up on another ship that is full of the, let's just say, not the most useful of people. They're not the there are a certain group of people. It's hard to explain because, again, there's a lot going on in this, and I don't pretend to understand how I can explain everything. But they end up on another planet, and in the end, they actually do figure out the question because it is in our main character's brain. But to find it, the mice wanted to kill him and take his brain out. But this planet ends up being something, and the story kind of comes around to itself, I guess is the best way to put it. Again, I don't pretend to understand this entire series, but I enjoyed the ride because I just loved all the crazy stories that the guide would tell you, and then how it was matching up to what was going on with our stories. Earlier I mentioned that I did feel this felt a little incomplete. It's because some of the characters near the end, they just disappear. They're gone, and you just don't know what happened to them. So That was kind of disappointing, and I'm curious if the early 2000s movie changed this. And I know from what little bit I looked up, a lot of things were changed from the books. So I don't know if this is how the book ended or not, or how this one ended. Is that how the book ended? I don't know. But I am curious to see that, to see what the newer movie is going to do. This miniseries is very creative. There's not a ton of well-known actors in it. There was a few I recognize, like David Prowse shows up for an episode, and I know there was a couple others I had seen before, just not real well-known to me anyway. I don't watch a ton of like BBC stuff, so I'm not gonna recognize a ton of, they're probably more well-known to either people in their country or people that just really follow British television. But I did enjoy their adventures. I enjoyed the creativity. I enjoyed the insanity. The wit of, especially things like where the computer is telling them it's going to take, I can't even remember how many years it was, but it's an absurd amount of time for him to figure out the answer to this question. It's like, I have to calculate it for this long. And then they go back to him and he's like, your answer's 42. So just the wit of the characters and the comedy in this is really good. It doesn't take itself too seriously, even though it's talking about stuff like the end of the world and everything. I thought the ending was okay. I didn't love it, but it was still satisfying. And watching this was satisfying. It at least gives me a leg up when I go to watch the early 2000s one. I'll have an idea of what's going on. Again, my big time memory is this is playing this text game with my buddy Tad. And we're trying to figure out how all this stuff works. And when anything I notice from the game, I'm like, I remember that. So yeah, I'm just real curious to see. I've always wanted to watch this early 2000s one, but I just never got around to it. So I mean, it's 2021, I guess. Better late than never, right? But yeah, I enjoyed The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's probably not something I would watch all the time, but I enjoyed the sci-fi. I loved the narration. I loved anytime we got stuff from the guide, because it has all these details that, while you don't need every single intricate detail, they're still fun to listen to, and then it does lead into where the story's at. So I did enjoy it. I did have a good time. And again, if you want to watch it, it's on Amazon Prime right now. That's it. See ya.